What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here. Today we are in the studio because we are doing a follow-up from this video right here. I guess it's going to be in this quarter right here. That's why them cards be going. But we're going to be doing a follow-up on the Swing Thoughts video where I went through with John Acton in our local disc golf store. And we threw normal shots, and then we tried the idea of focusing on a specific swing thought, which is what is actively going through my head. Am I thinking about my pull through? Am I thinking about my hand position, angle, things like that, trying to see, does it actually have an effect on what we're doing with our throws? So we're here looking at the footage of that, and we had thoughts on how it felt, but something we definitely talk about all the time in golf or swings in general is the idea of real versus feel. So we're going to dive into that real fast, but before we dive into that actual content, of course, we're going to ask the most important question of the day, and that is, how are you doing today, Todd? Are you having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
All right, so let's take a quick look at John's normal swing and what he's got going here. Boom. We'll look at that in slow motion just to see things that were like, hey, that sort of stands out to us. Let's go half speed and see things John's doing really well. So I like John's pace. I like that toe touches up front when it is timed to his reach back. He gets to that full extension, possibly a little early in terms of his full extension. This is happening. And let's see, when does he get to that full extension? He gets there here, but the disc very much stays inside of that circle. Okay. So we're getting to the full reach back pretty early in terms of his throw, but it's not, and it is pulled forward. Technically, you can see this arm, you can see this arm sort of coming in just a hair before the foot gets down and gets planted right here. So definitely possibly a little early there, but that could be a timing window thing for him. He's firing through the shot, head definitely down. I like when we build the wall here. I like that the only thing on the other side of the wall at first when the shot comes is the disc whipping through, bang, and then afterwards it's exhaust. We could obviously feel the brace a little more. He's pretty high up there, but I think he's also balancing the brace based on the fact that he does have a lot of spine tilt to it. Those are initial thoughts with John. This isn't necessarily meant to be like, oh man, a form critique of John. It's more so looking at things and sort of more obvious problems that we're seeing in the throws, and then we're going to from there shift those down into oh, are we actually seeing results or changes based on the throw? So we're going to do the same thing. Let's see what's going on with my throw. Here we go. So this is me coming through with a standard throw, and then when we watch it in half speed, okay, so things that I know in my own form, I am not hitting properly. Front toes on the ground. We aren't at the full peak of the reach back yet. We worked a lot on that. So here we're trying to drive with other powers, but it's still very arm focused, very arm centric. You can see really the only thing sort of driving this motion is my right arm coming in. And then I don't really sustain a strong power pocket here. This doesn't really ever exist because I swoop so much with this. I'm very opened. I have the possibility to hit into the brace. I like how my legs are shaped out, but I'm not necessarily holding into that, and it's just all kind of unfolding. I'm getting too far on top of the disc, and because of that, the disc is in all of really good positions, and then I just give it all up and get to this swoop. So yeah, we're not really jamming into the brace at all. So we're hitting the brace, we're setting ourselves up for the brace, but right here, everything just sort of crumbles in the form. So let's see if we fix any of that during the actual correction. So one of the first things that we tried to do was we tried to focus on lag. This is something for John, especially leaving that disc behind him, he said was a struggle of his. So having the focus on lag, I'll be very curious if it actually sort of resonated with him. Let's see what we got here. Knowing lag, we wanted to think about leaving the disc for a second behind him and seeing if that actually adjusted. We'll go to a quarter speed. So he was thinking about leaving it behind, leaving it behind, leaving it behind. So we know he gets to full extension early before. He's still getting to that full extension early here. And then we keep coming through. So boom, toe touches, and we also were talking about driving the left side, and the left side definitely crunches things for him. You can see right here, he is really driving that left side in, which is going to help him get more compact. And so there's going to be that faster ballerina rotation coming in right there because you can see how compressed his left side is. And also, I think that actually helps him feel that hit. We'll see the wall. Does the wall, what comes through on the wall? Everything kind of stays behind the wall there. Yeah. So I would say he still gets there early, but we definitely saw a lot more. We'll compare. Left side is the normal. And then where is he at in the full reach back? Okay, so when he reaches that full reach back, we can see that his foot is in a similar place. But like this is it. It's closer to the ground. So it hasn't necessarily solved that, but when we look at his left side sort of spinning in, I want to look at that moment right there where we can see that his left side is very heavy around here. And when we go to the compression, you can already see that getting this is a tighter rotation. Does it actually generate more power? That's a great question, but it definitely, on focusing on driving that left side initially, is causing him to be a good bit more compact in the throw, which could definitely have an increase on distance. So I would say that swing thought for John, actually positive there. So we like to see that. Now, heading over for me, I think on the lag is definitely something, leaving that disc behind there. I know that I fire too early and I know that I overpower it with my arm. So focusing on creating some lag definitely helps me create more power, more hit, makes me feel a lot more compact on the spin. Now, let's see. This is one of those where I feel like I'm actually driving the left side, but I'll already go ahead and tell you based on, I don't even need to compare these two shots because a feel versus real, I feel like I'm creating that lag, but notice here, it's not actually driving. My left side isn't driving at all. And I know something that we can even talk about overthrow of combining that left side and that right side coming in together. Completely agree with that. And so I have, even since shooting these videos in the store, it's something I've been pulling these two units together rather than isolating, let's say, just the left arm driving in, bringing these together. It is definitely something that helps make these two units, and I get that compactness once again. Even if you look at what John was doing, that left side getting in, his right arm doesn't make any adjustments whatsoever, but focusing on that left side syncs them together, which causes your compactness in that rotation to occur. So you can see here the two arrows. It does serve as that, like, I'm pushing it down, it's back there, but we'd much rather it be here on this one. We want it here, so it's much more compact, much tighter. Could allow for cleaner rotation and cleaner spin if I just pull it in. So for me, focusing on driving that left side didn't actually have an effect on the swing thoughts whatsoever. But thankfully, we did 3 other experiments here. So we'll go ahead and look at John when it comes to head position, because this was one that he said definitely felt weird, but we saw a difference in how he was able to get hit. So we'll look at this full speed. Bang, bang. You can see here the goal of this one, for those of you who are unfamiliar, the goal was to focus the head staring here, and then as the head is on that point, the body really has a point to whip around and throw through. So as John comes here, his head stays focused on that point. It allows him to stay anchored. Even with where the head goes, the body will follow. So that's definitely something to focus on. You notice the head is here, he's between his legs. That's really good, and it creates that pivot point or that jam that we've talked about, that wall that John needs to throw through. So his head stays anchored, gets that whip. I would say on this one, it wasn't necessarily one that we were seeing John crush. It was definitely an odd feeling for him. It's not necessarily creating a ton of extra power for him. In fact, this could lead him to injury if he's not careful and focuses too much on this. You can see how hard it's isolating the arm, and he's trying really hard because of his head position. He's trying really hard to also keep these shoulders in line, which is not letting the exhaust push out on the car. And so this could create a ton of shoulder problems if he isolates this. It's going to create a ton of extra torque on the shoulder for not letting the rest of the throw follow through. You can see he kind of hits and jams right here rather than and stops. It's a hard stop, which we don't necessarily want to see. So not necessarily the swing thought for John. A good idea. Definitely felt the weirdest for him, but it didn't create really any additional power, and in fact made him more injury prone with that. So not one that we'd recommend there for him. Whereas for me personally, I felt like this was a really good exercise, because you can see how this we touch, bang, we keep the head fired, and we hit the brace way better here for me personally. This is our wall, and the only thing coming through on the initial impact, when the disc is already out, the only thing forward, we have the head is behind, we have the legs behind. This still needs to tighten up, still need to get that a lot closer to the rotation, but I do like how much more the hand fires through and then letting the body come through and around. I mean, look at that brace really trying to shine here and hold me back on the throw. We're able to stand straight up. We're able to post afterwards. So the head position for me personally, really good. So if you find yourself blowing through the brace, this is definitely one that a swing thought that could help you on focusing the head position. We wanted to be staring right here at 10 o'clock, staring at that disc point. If you go back and watch the video, you'll even see that for John, I held up a disc in that space for him to stare at and focus on. Could be a really good swing thought. Once again, the thing you really do need to be careful of is, as we pointed out with John, don't over exaggerate it to the point that you're causing yourself injury. You're going to notice the shoulder feels a lot of the pain there. So definitely curious there. Let's talk about the last one, which was, I think, the biggest sort of focus point, the backhand. Throwing the back of your hand rather than throwing the disc to 10 o'clock, throwing that disc position. If I focus on getting the disc to 10 o'clock, when I come through, I will be here, and the disc has minimal rotating point for it to get up and around. But if I focus on going the back of my hand to 10 o'clock, you can notice for the disc to get forward, it has so much rotation that it has to get around. So seeing if that actually had any tremendous impact was big for the throw. Let's look at John in this position. Now, this is something that when I discovered it, I ran into the shop to even talk to John about, because John has like 425, 450 feet of distance pretty comfortably. So he's definitely pushed some to the 500 range. And this is where we see John shine, because he even said afterwards, this felt the most like his normal throw. So seeing him come through, we're just focusing on throwing that back of that hand to 10 o'clock. And you can see that's, if with that being the primary focus, that being the primary swing thought, he executes that pretty beautifully. Notice it is the back of his hand is getting to that 10 o'clock release point. It's even like, if I could shoot this in 200 frames per second, you would be able to see this in a lot more detail. But the hand comes through. This hits so fast throwing the hand. Everything is, you can tell it's a good throw, because look how much speed we can see so clearly. His hands, everything's good. Like it's all in picture. It's all in picture. And then right here, the brace has started. The power is transferring. His back foot is come back here. Back foot is lifting off, power is transferring, and it's firing into this shot. And once again, we can still clearly see what's happening here, which means we're not super fast yet. And then in the last moment, it explodes. And we get so fast to this moment, and his hand comes through and fires. And like John said, that's where he's feeling the most impact, the most power is in that moment whatsoever. Something I do want to focus on here is John's swing plane. We're going to draw little circles as we trace this, and then we're going to connect the circles. So, boop, boop. Keep coming through, release point, and then boom. We're going to draw from the center of the circle, So you can see there that it is going on a high to low motion. So if John isn't actively supinating his wrist and adding a pop to the shot, this is going to be a nose-up throw intentionally, because his launch angle has it moving in a downward trajectory. But you can see that if we follow sort of the path of that, that would lead to the ground. And so where the disc is going, that red line is actually moving up. So it has popped nose up to counter this. So there is distance that John is missing if he's not actively rotating. And that's where something like tech disc can come in really handy. And that's a little teaser for next week's video, where tech disc can give you the insight into if it's actually happening or not. So this is very curious to me. It's a negative launch angle by throwing the back of the hand. So the power is there, the generation of power is there, but it may not be maximizing that potential just because of the launch angle and what we've got going there. Really excited to be working with Tech Disc. Like I said, you guys are going to see, we actually have an affiliate link with it already. Orders aren't being fulfilled until October anyways for them. So let's go ahead and look at what I've got going. Similar vibes. We're throwing the back of the hand here. Am I actually getting the back of the hand to that point? It doesn't appear so, because right now we would love to see, as things are piling over the brace. We would love to see the hand already out, but my hand is not at 10 o'clock. I would say that's much closer to 12. And part of that is going to be the swing plane that I'm pulling through is not great. As I've started working with tech disc, I've realized like, ooh, that'd be bad, dude. Okay, so let's draw our circles here. We did it to John. We'll do the same thing here. So there's circle 1. There's a frame. Okay. There's a frame. And you can see it's popped there. So you can just start to see, okay, that's not bad. Uh-oh. Proper yoinks. And Zac Efron would be proud. We're soaring and flying right there. So very, very curious with this. This is definitely something that I have noticed when I'm trying to add power to the shot is that my nose angle changes drastically. Throwing the back of the hand to the disc has felt really powerful, but I am definitely missing out on so much because I'm air bouncing the disc. And so I am noticing when I get that nose angle correct, a lot of my stuff's flying a lot more understable, and it's because I'm generating a lot of power by throwing that back in the hand to the shot. But my launch angle is pretty much extremely negative. As you guys are seeing in this section of the throw, there is an extreme downward trajectory, and so that's why when I actually throw some of my stuff, it is less stable than I've given it credit for, but I am making these things work, throwing them nose up. And if we're getting 350, 380 of power with nose up angles, fixing that nose angle is going to be tremendous. So is the swing thought of throwing the backhand back in the hand actually working here? I wouldn't say necessarily it is working for me, just focusing on that. And it seems like for me, one of the biggest hits is keeping that head isolated and trusting my body to rotate around. Whereas for John, we saw the closest to his normal throw was the swing thought of trying to create the back of the hand, and where he saw the most change and allowed him to get that tighter rotation was focusing on the lag, driving with the left side. So it's very curious what swing thought is actually working for you. Whereas when we talk in the video, what we said afterwards is we both felt like that back in the hand was creating a lot of momentum for us. And I actually thought that the lag, I believe, was doing the most for me, where we find out that's just not true. So very, very curious, but you won't know any of this unless you film yourself throwing. So make sure, if you have never filmed yourself throwing before, your iPhone, your Android, really good device to be recording this. You don't have to have a camera set up. You don't have to be doing that. And there are free apps that you can draw on yourself with, but really I always suggest recording at original speed and then breaking it down afterwards. So you can use, there are free apps that exist. This one is a paid app, just that I'm able to use because that gives me all these little tools that I can draw with, as you're seeing on the right side. But I love being able to see myself throw in normal speed, because that's going to give me some timing things. And then you can always slow down afterwards if you have the right footage. So really good to be able to see how these timing windows are actually affecting how they're playing out. Beautiful for, okay, cool. Am I actually, boom, the toe touches and then I'm getting this whip. Mike Strauss calls that my push-pull. So definitely something that you want to look at. Make sure that you are diving in to your form, and it's not just I felt this while I was throwing. You want to see what the feel is versus the real. And we see that swing thoughts do actually have an effect on your throw, especially if you spend time working on your form like John has, like I have. Swing thoughts can be a tremendous impact. It's just finding the right one. So I would be curious, for those of you who have tried some of these swing thoughts since you saw the original video, have you videoed yourself and seen the results? What are you finding? Let us know in the comments below. As always, I want to say thank you for watching and thank you for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and that you can make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're going to leave you with the birdie.